No one has more state pride than New Mexicans. The vibrant culture, bold flavors, unique history, and dramatic landscapes under our Zia sun are like no other. And the people of New Mexico are a rare breed. As diverse as we are, together we breathe life and soul into this high desert land, a land that promises adventure. I'm Michael Newman, and as your host, I'll be taking you with me as I seek out the best the Land of Enchantment has to offer.
New Mexico, it feels like home to me. It feels so true. It's time well spent when I spend it with you.
Thanks for tuning in for another episode of New Mexico True Television. I'm your host, Michael Newman. In this episode, we're exploring some of the wonderful roadside oddities and treasures around the state. From historic highway remnants and a welcoming committee of giants to windmills of the eastern plains and a sailboat in the desert, treasures abound. So let's check it out. Just east of Albuquerque on the Turquoise Trail, on the way up to the Sandia Crest on New Mexico Highway 536, is one of the state's most precious gems, the Tinkertown Museum. Over 4 decades, Ross Ward lovingly created this eclectic, imaginative, and brilliant world that is now Tinkertown Museum. From the very structure of Tinkertown itself, to all the marvelous contents inside, Ross built, created, and toiled with inspiration to create this wonderland. It is hard to put into words. It really is something to experience firsthand. Let's see what Grandma's all about. I got some quarters. Let's see what my fortune is. What you got for me, Grandma? You were nature's stepchild. We're at the career pilot. Are you the captain of your fate? Fish peddler. Some of these miniature carved figures first traveled around the country to county fairs and carnivals in the 1960s and 70s. But Ross's personal history with the carnival goes far beyond that. As a prolific self-taught painter, Ross painted for carnivals for over 30 years. His love for circus life is reflected in many of the exhibits you see today. How to be really alive. This guy has some very wise words to say. You can tell that he was a smart man. Ross's wife, Carla, oversees Tinkertown now, and I had the chance to meet with her on my visit. Thank you for having me. This place is immaculate.
Thank you.
In like the most creative, like off the beaten path kind of way. So I'm wondering, what was the origin of Tinkertown?
Well, you know, Ross and I traveled a lot around the country because he was a carnival and circus painter is what his day job was. He traveled all over the country painting big fun houses and murals, and we would stop at every roadside attraction that we could find, and they were disappearing like crazy. Every time we'd drive down the road, another one would be gone, and we thought, you know, we should really build one ourselves.
Okay.
So we kind of built one that we would most want to go to. We used to have the Western town in a little trailer and would take it around to state fairs. It played at the New Mexico State Fair for many years. And so we had the beginnings of a roadside attraction. And then as we kept working it, you know, it would grow and grow and grow. And, you know, it just evolved into this.
Totally. So it was based out of a necessity. We had so much stuff. We wanted to show it to the world.
Unfortunately, he was diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease when he was only 57 and died at 62 in 2002, 12 years ago. But he did all of this by the time he was basically 57 years old, and he was truly a remarkable genius.
People don't do this much on a lifetime.
I know.
It's kind of hard to fathom when you look at, like, for example, like the circus tent.
Yeah.
There's like 50 things going on, and to think that one person went from one thing to the next and all intricately placed perfectly, it's like, how can you even conceive of doing something like that?
He was really gifted.
Beyond all of Ross's creations, there's an artifact of a completely different nature towards the back of the museum. How did the boat come to be here?
Well, my brother is the sailor, and he was living here, right here next door to Tinkertown here, and building guitars. And he just had this notion that he wanted to sail around the world. So he went looking for a boat and found one in Fort Lauderdale that a British couple had sailed in there under his price range, and he bought it and took off in 1981 and with the idea that he was going to spend 10 years sailing around the world.
10 years.
Yeah.
That's a commitment.
It's a huge commitment. I got to meet up with him many different places, and I would come and join him for a couple of months at a time, and we had lots of amazing adventures.
Yeah.
And when he finished sailing in 1992, he tried for 2 years to sell the boat, couldn't find anybody that wanted to buy it. So he was going to take it out and sink it and make a reef out of it, and we said, no, bring it here to the museum. It's one of our best exhibits. People love the idea that somebody just had a dream and they made it happen to travel.
While a sailboat anchored in the middle of the desert at the back of the Sandia Mountains seems like it should be out of the ordinary, somehow at Tinkertown, the unexpected feels completely natural. Of course this sailboat made its way here. Naturally, this boat decided to make Tinkertown its home.
Voyage of Theodora R.
All right, best pina colada in the Caribbean, to be expected. Emergency surgery. Cheapest beer in Madagascar. Favorite place in the Mediterranean here off of the coast of Turkey. Voyage completed in Mobile, Alabama, 1991. And then from there, of course, it makes it to Tinkertown, right in New Mexico. It's really amazing thinking that this boat has been all around the world. It's seen who knows how many different countries and been in crazy waters and near-death experiences, and to know someone was riding this thing the whole way through. And now it's in the middle of New Mexico. So why do you think the sailboat is perfectly placed as a resting place here in Tinkertown?
Tinkertown speaks to the traveling spirit. All of our quotes and all the people we get from around the world, we meet here at Tinkertown, and it just touches everybody's quest for understanding each other and the world.
Right. Being here at Tinkertown, I keep thinking of a quote by Wilfred Peterson. Walk with the dreamers, the believers, the courageous, the cheerful, the planners, the doers, the people with their heads in the clouds and their feet on the ground. Let their spirit ignite a fire within you to leave this world better than you found it. A dreamer and a doer lived here, and he left a brilliant, eccentric, offbeat, and happy world behind him. He built it. All you need to do is come and see it for yourself. Undoubtedly, you'll take some inspiration with you when you leave. Tinkertown is closed during the winter months, November through March. Otherwise, their doors are open 7 days a week, and kids under 4 are free. Situated on both the road to Sandia Crest and the scenic Turquoise Trail Byway, make a day trip out of your visit to Tinkertown and hit the old mining towns and art communities of Madrid and Cerrillos too. Don't go away, we have a giant treat for your taste buds coming up next. Make sure you tag your New Mexico True photos with hashtag New Mexico True. 2.5 hours south of Albuquerque and only 40 miles north of Las Cruces on I-25 is Hatch, the chili capital of the world. So what better place to stop and grab a green chili cheeseburger? I must admit, my appetite is driving this visit to Hatch. I'm headed to Sparky's, arguably one of the best places in the state to satisfy the craving of all cravings, a New Mexico favorite, the green chili cheeseburger. Yes, Sparky's has become an institution of sorts, inspiring many folks to make the trek to Hatch. Some of you out there may already relate. Pulling into Hatch, you'll notice there's more to this town than its sprawling chili fields and roadside chili vendors. Towering overhead, giant statues line the main road. As it turns out, these enormous figurines are simply ushering you to your destination. Yes, they are part of the Sparky's experience as well. Owner and founder of Sparky's, Tico, has always been a collector of vintage pieces, no matter how large. These characters are all part of his collection, and with each visit to town, expect to see new ones pop up. From the inside out, treasures abound. There's no shortage of things to feast your eyes on, but we all know the real feast happens once you place your order. The aromas of smoked sausage and brisket make tantalizing option for these anxious customers in line. But for me, there's no other choice but the world famous. Hello!
What can I get you?
What's the best thing on the menu?
The green chili cheeseburger.
All right, is that world famous thing?
Yes, sir?
All right, is it world famous?
Yes, it is world famous.
All right, then give me one of those.
How would you like that cooked?
Medium well, please.
Medium well?
Also, can I get a green chili lemonade?
Yes,
That
you may.
sounds very special.
That'll be all for you?
All right, when in Hatch, I have to do it. And I don't even have to dine alone. Dylan, the son of this family-run operation, joins me and fills me in on how Sparky's came to be such a newly beloved institution. Oh.
Hi, I have a world famous with pork.
Yes, thank you so much.
Anything else for you?
No, I'm set right now. Thank
Enjoy.
you.
There it
Thank you.
is.
Like world famous. People all around the state are talking about this burger. It's world famous.
And also just that you can come see like a weird statue that everyone's making a fuss about or talking about or anything.
Yeah.
And then my mom built the outside
Okay.
metal robot.
So it's been
holding
a
the water
family
fountain.
business since the beginning. Like everybody hands in, get it done. Kind
Yeah,
of thing.
absolutely. I think if it wasn't for my mom, my dad would just be sitting out of like a metal building with no, picnic tables and tablecloths.
Like, what was it like in the first stages?
Well, the first stages would have been the first building where you ordered, and you could have only gotten World Famous, which I believe was called the World Famous.
Okay, it was always
on day
World
one,
Famous.
yeah.
You setting yourself up for success, right?
I just kind of call it the World Famous, and we'll just see if it makes it or not, So it's always been the name,
Okay.
and you could have gotten pulled pork, brisket, and ribs.
Oh wow.
4 items, and that was it.
So do you have any favorite things or things that you want on the menu?
As far as talking to him about something that I mentioned, maybe we should try this. He's very nice and he listens, and
That's about it.
But sometimes I'm thinking, I can already tell he doesn't want to do it, but he's always been right in the end,
Right,
because
right.
he's patient and he wants to make something where he can repeat it for every customer, can always expect that taste.
The
and
consistency.
He doesn't want to lose the consistency.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it, right?
Right,
And people
right.
are coming back for the green chili cheeseburger day in, day out.
And I think they like just how simple it is.
Right, totally.
It's
Simplicity.
it's a little startling at first, actually, that it didn't come with other things on it, but it's just simple and you get the flavors, and there's 3 or 4, but they're really strong and they're coming at you.
Yeah.
And some, like the beans and the slaw, that's old family recipes.
Okay.
So, a lot of that stuff just got passed down. And the corn,
That's good. Whoa. It's like, you have your sweet corn, but then it's like New Mexico style. Boom, green
Yeah.
chili. It's spicy, but it's still sweet. Cheers to that, my friend.
cheers.
Wash down some green chili with some green chili. Sparky's is open Thursday through Sunday, 10:30 a.m. to 7 p.m. Sparky's is a popular spot, and most likely, you'll see a line out of the door. But don't let the line fool you. It moves fast, and you'll have no problem finding a seat and devouring your meal pronto. Treat your taste buds to one of their signature shakes. The green chili mango shake or their sassy strawberry shake with guajillo chili are highly recommended. And now, from the pages of New Mexico Magazine. One of the more charming and unusual things you will come across in Portales is the large collection of windmills housed at the Roosevelt County Fairgrounds. Collected over 3 decades by locals Bill and Alta Daly, it is fitting these windmills have found their home in Portales, a town in the high plains of eastern New Mexico, a region that could not have been settled without this technology. Utilizing the energy from the wind to pump water out of the ground, windmills allowed early pioneers to settle where there was no water supply. Prior to this, the only inhabitable areas for settlers were spots near watering holes, springs, creeks, and rivers. Windmills also played a crucial role in the railroad beginning in the early 1870s, providing the necessary water for steam-powered locomotives to make their cross-country journeys. Windmills were placed along the railways every 20 miles so the trains could refuel. Windmills also opened up the plains of West Texas and eastern New Mexico to settlers, and became landmarks to cowboys and other travelers as they made their way across the plains. Today, travelers still take note of these iconic structures dotting the landscape, but it is truly a wonder to see them collected all in one place, each one having stood the test of time, each of them unique and beautiful in their old age. Together, they are a sight not to be missed. For more great stories like this from New Mexico Magazine, visit newmexico.org. Stay tuned for a treasure trove of classic cars. Need a reason to hit the road? Find events around the state at newmexico.org. Just north of Albuquerque in Rio Rancho on Highway 528 sits a very unassuming building whose exterior may look like a warehouse, but inside is a treasure trove of antique and classic cars. This is the J&R Auto Museum. As I have learned, this is one of those places when you ask locals about it, people who have lived in Albuquerque their whole lives, they have no idea what you're talking about. Yet this museum sees a regular stream of visitors from all reaches of the globe because of its esteemed collection among car enthusiasts. If you haven't already surmised, this is one of the area's best kept secrets. Gab and Ivana Joyner are the proprietors of the museum, and the collection goes back to when Gab bought his first antique car, a 1926 Model T Ford Coupe, back in 1959. Today, the cars in the museum range from a 1912 Buick to a 1969 Mercury Cougar. More than 5 decades of automobile history all in one building out here in Rio Rancho. Now, I have to admit, my knowledge when it comes to old cars is less than limited, but even I can see how impressive this collection is.
This guy, it's more like a minivan from the 1920s, but it's really sleek and elegant still.
From names like Ford and Buick, whose cars are still produced today, to vintage classics like Marmons, Packards, and Studebakers, they have a stunning variety of vehicles in here. While walking through the museum, you can't help but notice the full row of automobiles that have ribbons and awards from the Great Race. Clearly these cars have some stories to tell. I decide I need to speak with Ivana Joyner to hear what this is all about.
A friend and her and I decided to do it in '87 when our husbands couldn't decide if they wanted to do it or not. So we said, well, let's us do it. So her and I did it in '88 in the little yellow car over here, little Model A, and went from Disneyland to Boston that year.
So across the country.
So,
you must have been setting some
went-
records, a female duo driving across the country.
We were the first all-female team to ever do the race and finish it. There had been
Really?
another one that started, but they didn't finish. So we were the first all-female team to ever
Look at
finish.
you. Setting,
So-
setting the standard. That's great.
And then after that, there was so many ladies that said, we want to do that.
You guys are setting records, and who would have thought in the middle of Rio Rancho, here's all the, the proof of all the work that you guys have done. I'm blown away by because a lot of these cars you only see in miniatures or in books.
We have some very unusual cars in here, and that's what my husband likes, is something different
Right.
instead of something that everybody's got.
And they don't make them like that anymore, right?
No, that's true. And his favorites are anywhere, 20s, 30s, and 40s.
I can imagine driving one of these cars across country. It would take the notion of road trip to a whole other level. Behind the wheel of one of these automobiles, it would feel like you are really touring the country and taking in the sights in style. As it turns out, over half of the cars in the museum are for sale. Guess I better start saving my pennies. The museum is located right off Highway 528 in Rio Rancho. Don't rely on a GPS system as it will not give proper directions, but it's easy to find. Their address is 3650A Highway 528, just north of the McDonald's at Montoya Road. The museum also has an incredible gift shop for car enthusiasts and collectors. Books and die-cast toys you won't be able to find anywhere else in town. If you're inspired by what you see, check to see what refurbished cars or project vehicles they have for sale. And now from our Cabinet Secretary of Tourism, Monique Jacobson, here is another New Mexico true treasure.
My absolute favorite thing about New Mexico is the sky. And the only thing better than our blue skies is what happens when the sun goes down and the sky lights up. The 3 greatest things about New Mexico sunsets are that 1, each one is unique in color, cloud formations, and of course the landscape below. 2, they happen all the time, whether you're in the mountains looking for them or at your child's sporting event. 3, they turn even a novice with a cell phone into an artist. You've just seen several my 8-year-old took, and I took this one with my iPhone. Next time you capture one of our amazing sunsets, make sure you share it and hashtag New Mexico True.
When you're cutting up the canyon along the Rio Grande on Highway 68, also known as the Low Road or the River Road to Taos, a spot you don't want to miss is the Classical Gas Museum in the town of Embuda. The Classical Gas Museum is owner and collector Johnny Meyer's homage to the great lost art that came with America's early car culture. Gas pumps as sculpture, signage representing early graphic design, treasures and relics of days gone by. In a nutshell, true American iconography.
So Johnny, we're here at the Classical Gas Museum in Embuda, New Mexico. It's a landmark, for sure, but you don't know what it is until you pull in. So tell me the backstory, how this place came to be.
Well, when I was a teenager, I worked on classic cars, and I just love them because they're simple and well built, well crafted, and just well designed. And as a teenager, I'd go to junkyards and get parts for cars. But while I was at the junkyard, I started loving junk, man. And so I started dragging stuff home besides car parts and started decorating my garage, and then I started putting I found a gas pump at a junkyard, put it out front, and then it kind of just avalanched,
Just built on it.
Yeah, it just kind of evolved.
And what is it about these vintage kind of items That, to me, it kind of creates this nostalgia. But for you, what is the draw to it?
I think it represents several things. To me, it's art. I mean, when I look at these classic gas pumps, I see sculpture, I see art, and I see craftsmanship. It represents a period in America where we built things here in America and that we invested craftsmanship. We were proud of what we built and we tried to do the best job we could do. To me, it represents sort of the enchanted view of America. It's kind of the romantic view of America. And the tourists I get from all over the world here, this represents their romantic view of America.
And these memories, this nostalgia that tourists have, is relayed to Johnny on a day-to-day basis.
I can't tell you how many times I've heard people come here and say, my dad used to work for Frontier Gas, or my neighbor used to drive a truck for Texaco, or my first job was in a Phillips 66 station. I'm just amazed how everybody has some sort of connection to the old gas stations.
Johnny's right. By nature, gas stations are an essential element of one of the biggest parts of our day-to-day lives, our cars. And even though most of these items predate my personal driving history, they still conjure up the imagery of old photos and movies that are the foundation of American popular culture, a culture we can all embrace. But I have to say, as much fun as it is to meander around the museum and peruse through all the vintage treasures, I think the best part of my visit was swapping stories with Johnny on the bench under the apricot tree.
People are on their vacations, and a year ago there was some folks that had just come from the Grand Canyon, and they were stopped here and started taking pictures, and they ran out of memory on their card, and they started deleting pictures of the Grand Canyon to take pictures of this place. And I thought to myself, this ain't right. This ain't right.
It may not be right, but it's all good. I definitely recommend you carve out some time to hang out with Johnny on the bench out front and tell some tales as the cars whiz by. That's in America you don't get to experience every day. The hours at the Gas Museum are fairly flexible, meaning it's open as long as Johnny is there, which is most of the time. You can get some great photos and wander around the front at any old time, so pull over regardless. This stretch of road offers some other great diversions. Make a pit stop at Sugar's Barbecue and Hamburgers, just half a mile north of Embudo on 68 in Velarde for some great barbecue, or pay a visit to the tasting room at Vivac Winery to sample more flavors of this region. So as you can see, there are plenty of fun, quirky things to check out all around the state. So with that being said, what are you doing next weekend?